to Bodegas Solar de Urbezo. Bodegas Solar de Urbezo is located in the town of Cariñena, 45 kilometers from Zaragoza, the capital of a region called Aragon. It lies in the south of the Ebro Valley, facing Mount Moncayo at the foot of the Sierra de Algairen Mountains, and has been registered with the Cariñena Protected Designation of Origin. The wine-growing tradition in Cariñena is one of the oldest in Spain, as it can be traced back to the 3rd century BC, when the Romans inhabited these lands. We've put our heart and soul into this video, which is intended to introduce you to our winery, its vineyards and wines, as well as to invite you to visit us. We would also like to remember those who've shared their time with us and with whom we've enjoyed a glass of good wine, a symbol of friendship born from a love for the land and for work well done. In 1995, continuing an old family tradition dating back many generations, Santiago Gracia Isiegas founded the winery Bodegas Solar de Urbezo, with the aim of producing grapes from the vineyards that the Gracia Campillo family owns in Cariñena, and offering a full guarantee of quality and purity in their wines. Solar de Urbezo grows its vineyards with love and care to achieve healthy, ripe and balanced grapes with concentrated flavors, color and structure. The essential factors for the vines to develop their full potential are the altitude at which the vineyards are located, between 600 and 800 meters, the microclimate with cold winters and hot summers, the scarce rainfall with controlled drip irrigation, the very deep limestone and clay gravel soil, organic farming in the vineyard to preserve the environment, strict control of winter pruning, close control of green pruning in spring, ecological phytosanitary treatments, environmentally friendly organic fertilizer limited to between the rows. The result is control of production of grapes by vine, from which excellent quality wine of splendid expression will be obtained. Solar de Urbezo directly cultivates its 100 hectares of vineyards of different varieties, of which 2/3 are organically farmed. The traditional Garnacha, Cariñena and Tempranillo planted in a grid pattern and goblet trained, and the French Syrah, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay, which are trellis trained and pruned in the double Cordon Royat tradition. They all offer a wide range of varieties, which along with the microclimate and terroir result in complex and balanced wines, as well as varietal wines with a personality of their own. The vegetative cycle. From spring until harvest time, the technical team at Solar de Urbezo controls all the key moments of the vegetative cycle at the vineyards: bleeding, budding, sprouting, separation of clusters, flowering, setting, color change of grapes, veraison, and beginning of maturation. Phytosanitary treatment is carried out in an environmentally friendly manner, and drip irrigation is applied based on rainfall. Maturation and harvest. Every week, 200 grapes from each plot of land are tested to see the evolution of 4 parameters: weight, pH and degrees Baume, which are increasing, and total acidity, which is decreasing. Phenolic maturity is determined by the polyphenol content, anthocyanins and tannins which are found inside the skin, and is measured by the color index. The analysis of these parameters will give us the maturity curve, which, together with a visit to the vineyard and grape tasting, will determine a winemaking maturity date and the beginning of the harvest in each plot. The harvest is done by separately picking the different kinds of grapes in order to make varietal wines. Each harvest brings new grapes. By combining technique and art, the winemakers get the best out of each must. The production capacity is 900,000 litres. Stainless steel equipment, heating and cooling equipment, temperature control during alcoholic fermentation, temperature control during malolactic activity, natural stabilization of young wines. Receiving the grapes and traceability. When the grapes reach the cellar, the sanitary conditions are checked before they're unloaded in order to confirm the impression obtained in the vineyard. Next, the grapes are unloaded into the hopper scales. A sensor sends information to the control station and issues a numbered receipt which contains date, time, net weight, estate, plot, place, and variety. Reception then starts and the grapes are separated from the stems. The grapes and must are sent to a numbered tank and a sample is taken in order to determine the grape's inlet temperature, total acidity, pH and density, which will give the percentage of sugar. The color index will give us the phenolic maturity. The traceability process begins with all these details shown on the receipt. From the grapes to the bottle, the stems leave the cellar and are taken back to the fields to be used, along with other plant and animal organic matter, as fertilizer for the vines. Production. Alcoholic fermentation. This is the transformation of grape sugar into alcohol, giving off carbon dioxide and heat in the presence of yeast. For white and rosé wines, we will separate the must from the skin, once cold maceration has been carried out for several hours. Then we will pour selected yeasts in, and fermentation will start at low temperature, between 14 and 16 degrees centigrade. Red wines are fermented with the skins at a controlled temperature between 25 and 28 degrees centigrade. The must, which contains sugar, will go to the bottom of the tank, and the marc will rise to the upper part of the tank to form what is known as the cap. During fermentation, which lasts from 8 to 12 days, the must is pumped over several times a day to wet the cap and extract the polyphenols, anthocyanins and tannins, found inside the skin. Both of these will provide the wine with color, structure, aroma, fleshiness, and amplitude. Each day we test and taste each tank, taking appropriate decisions to determine when to put an end to alcoholic fermentation and the right time for devatting, where we separate the wine from the marc. Malolactic activity. Once the alcoholic fermentation has been completed, lactic bacteria will play a role in starting malolactic activity, which is when malic acid turns into lactic acid and wine is stabilized in a natural way. Once the wines of each vintage have been produced, the tasting panel will determine the rating for each of the wines sold by Solar de Urbezo, while assessing the quality and intended market. Young varietal wines, white Chardonnay, Merlot Rosé and Garnacha, will be bottled after stabilization. Each of them will be assigned a different 6-digit number called lot, which will appear on all bottles that are released to the market. Each year, the panel will decide the percentage of varietal wines that make up Vinho Urbezo, and also which wines will be put into barrels, the type of French or American oak, as well as the minimum time they will spend in them, depending on whether the wine will be marketed as Crianza, Reserva, or Gran Reserva. Bottling. The winery has a bottling, capping and labeling line capable of processing 3,000 bottles per hour. The wine is bottled in a nitrogen atmosphere. The aging cellar. Young wines with more structure and color, which are selected by the tasting panel, undergo an aging process in order to perform barrel aging and bottle aging. Barrel aging is carried out in 300-liter barrels. During this time, the wood gives the wine the tannins and roasted and spicy aromas which blend with one another by means of slow microoxygenation. Wood influences the behavior of wine, depending on the forest of origin, the pore size, wood maturation, and roasting at the cooperage. At Solar de Urbezo, American and French oak barrels are combined in order to give the wine some unique features and a style of its own. The wines rest in the barrels in the silence and stillness of the aging cellar, thus gaining complexity, maturity and roundness. Temperature, humidity and aeration are all controlled here. After bottling, the wine begins its bottle aging and will stay for some time in the cellar, away from oxygen, until the aromatic nuances and taste sensations that make up its bouquet have fully developed and it is ready to be released. The wine will be classified as Crianza, Reserva or Gran Reserva, depending on the length of the aging process. Our market. Solar de Urbezo wines are present in major Spanish cities through our distributors. They can be purchased from gourmet shops, wine bars, pubs, restaurants and hotels. Our international market includes Europe, the USA, Canada, Brazil, China, Taiwan and Colombia. Awards. Throughout our family's winemaking history, our wines have won numerous awards. Back in 1929, Santiago Gracia and Francisco Isiegas, both of Santiago's grandfathers, won a gold medal at the Second International Vine and Wine Conference held in Barcelona with their red wines of the 1928 vintage. Since 1995, we've won awards at national competitions, Baco, Bacchus, and Primer de Maceración Carbónica. Excellent rating in the Peñín, Proenza, and Gourmet guides. We've won numerous medals at international competitions in France, Germany, Belgium, Italy, and Russia. Very well rated by Robert Parker. The winery and its wines have appeared many times in newspapers and specialized publications both at home and abroad. The family, Solar de Urbezo, offers all those who love vineyards and wine. Tradition, experience, work well done, excitement, innovation, and future.